Howdy y'all and welcome to Dakota Daydreams. I'm Dakota and today I'll be introducing Weaving Wands, episode 1. I've been messing around with string for quite a while now. It started when I was a kid and I got a loom knitting set as a gift at one point, and then I taught myself how to crochet with the hook off of that, forgot how to crochet, and I just keep getting and losing knitting supplies over the years. But recently, I've restocked off of Amazon from the mixed bundles, and I honestly kind of feel like those are a good way to figure out what sizes I'm actually going to use a lot of out of what kind of needles, and I can replace as I need to out of the bundle, so I get a good set for practicing a lot of different things without having to spend a whole heck of a lot up front. I did get these a while ago though, so I don't exactly remember what listing they were, but I do remember they're from Amazon. And the first ones up for the show and tell are the double pointed needles. This is a huge pack, and it came with everything from the teeny tiny, almost a toothpick sized ones, all the way up to really big, chunky, I think it's 10 millimeter. I think it's half a millimeter to 10 millimeters for the sizes on all of them. And they are marked in millimeters. But that's okay, because most of the patterns have conversion charts now. And honestly, I haven't really learned a whole lot other than sleeves on double pointed, so I do most of my work on the classic needles, as I call them, or my wands, because the way these ones are made, they kinda look like wands to me, and it's a fun thing to call them. You weave with the wands and you magically make something. And even circular needles, which are honestly a close favorite for blankets or any larger project, because as it gets heavier, the loop of the circular needle kind of holds the weight on your lap rather than having the weight on the end of the needle on your wrist, which can get kind of not fun very fast. One of the bundles even included crochet hooks with the knitting supplies. Don't remember which one anymore, but if I ever do figure out the crochet hooks again, I'm pretty sure I'll do a separate series for them because there's such different methods of working with yarn that honestly it's kind of like magic. If the knitting needles are weaving with wands, then the crochet hooks are like a form of staff magic. So they would get a separate series. But my favorite part of getting the yarn tools this way is that they come with accessories. All of the Amazon bundles I've seen have a variety pack of accessories and very easy to organize little tote boxes. I generally use the large ones as like a general pack, and then the smaller ones I'll sort by individual accessory type. Like one for the yarn sewing needles, one for the plastic safety pin style clips that can hold stitches if I need them to, one for stitch markers that fit on the needles and go between the stitches on the needles. And I try to sort them by color, but they shuffle themselves when they feel like it. And even one for needle tip covers, which help keep the yarn from sliding off the needles when you try to set it down for a minute. And honestly, these were probably one of my favorite discoveries of knitting accessories ever because it keeps the yarn where I left it. All of these accessories came bundled with one or the other pack of needles that I got because I know I got it in two separate packs. Because one pack had either the double pointed and the classic, and the other one had circular and crochet, but I don't remember what split it was. Like one had two, the other one had two. So I got them all together. They had all these accessories, and I'm pretty sure I've already lost a big case that had a general assortment of things somewhere in my things. It's a lot of stuff that just comes with it, and it was less than $40 for all of that. Now, from that, I keep a certain amount of supplies in the pocket of this table because it's like a bed table thing from Walmart that was like $5. And it's got side pockets and a drink holder pocket. And if I decide I'm ready to knit, I like for there to be some things in the pocket that I can just grab and just throw something on the wands and get it going. And I think one of the most used sizes of classic needle I have is the 5 millimeters because they just work with so many different sizes of yarn because it can make a decent workable tight weave out of a bulky yarn or a light and breathable weave out of a lighter yarn. And then it's also where I keep the nicer of the clippers that I still have, and this is the reason I'm sure that I've misplaced a box of supplies somewhere, because I could have sworn I had 2 clippers of this style and 1 of the other, but this is the only one of this style I can find now. It'll turn up eventually, I'm sure. And since I've discovered them, I don't work on anything without yarn caps anymore. Needle caps, yarn caps, whatever you want to call them. The caps are very important because they keep the yarn where we set it down at. And then I like to keep a row counter, even though I usually don't use it to count rows on most projects that I'm doing. But I don't want to have to fumble around and try to find one if I see a pattern that I need to count rows for. And a measuring tape, which honestly has come in handy for so many things other than knitting, because maybe it's not the most accurate to an inch measuring tape or accurate to a centimeter measuring tape that was ever made, but it does have both, and it's close enough to give me an idea of what I'm working with at least. And then I try to also have an assortment of clips and pens and whatever else I think I might need for some project I see that maybe I wanted to start, but I haven't gotten the rest of the stuff out to get more supplies out yet. I've got a little bit more to work with. I also like to keep a yarn sewing needle out, just in case I have like a longer tail to weave in when I finish something or whatever. I've needed one and not been able to find one enough times that it gets on the list now. And then I always keep at least 2 stitch markers just in case I decide I want to throw a border on a project. Now, my method for casting on is a little bit different, and honestly, I think we all have our own method. But the first thing I'll do is just try to make a loop around my finger. And once I get a good loop, I'll just slide the wand through it and pull the loop tighter around the knitting needle using the tail side, not the side that goes down to the ball, because I want that tail to be as long as I can get it, because I can always clip it, but I can't make it longer after this point. And then we grab the second wand and slide it up under the loop so that they're both inside the loop, and the wand that we started with is the one closer to us. And then wrap the yarn around them, holding it away from you like you're doing a regular knit stitch. And then we just flip the first needle through it and pass it over and repeat. Just loop between it and then duck it through and pass it over. It honestly gets so smooth once you're used to it that it's easier to loop a clip of doing it quickly than try to do it slowly. Because if I try to do it slower than I know how, I forget what I'm doing at this point. And it's honestly a little bit of amusing to me at myself now because 10 very short years ago, I was trying to do the same loop, duck, pass technique, and I ended up throwing the needles across the room in frustration and literally crying multiple times trying to figure this out. But it honestly comes down to a muscle memory and just breathing, relaxing, understanding that it's going to take a minute, and maybe a good forewarning that sometimes you will cast on stitches and your hand will move and it loops that tail the wrong way before you put the first row in, and you'll lose some, or they'll start falling off the end of a needle if you're trying to do a big blanket. It happens, and it's okay. There are a lot of ways to add stitches later if you needed more than you end up with, and ultimately, I've noticed a lot of times I'll go to cast off and find out I've lost at least a dozen stitches throughout, but you can't even really tell because it just works with the pattern. Like, it's just an art, not a science. Now, for my first row, I like to bring the yarn around the project so that it's pulled towards me and loop it around this way and do what's called a purl stitch. And I feel like that makes the bottom of the project look more like the cast off rows that I do, so that the top and bottom match a little bit better. They don't have to, because again, art not science, but I like if they do. And especially for this project, since I'm trying to retrain my hands and muscle memory from being out of practice with the knitting for a really long time, it's kind of nice to alternate between both of the main types of stitch that I'm going to be working with in most patterns. Now, because of how differently I start and do most of the basic stitches, I usually find a pattern I like and then rewrite it to the way my brain understands the craft of knitting to actually work it. Now, for the next row, I'm going to bring the yarn back to the front of the project and pull it out away from me and do a row of knit stitches. And I'm going to keep alternating because I was thinking about doing a washcloth, but it's looking too narrow for that right now. So I think I'm going to switch modes to maybe catching up on some videos by other people and trying to make a scarf out of it to use the rest of this ball, because it was the smallest yarn ball, and I never really know what to do with them when they get to that position in the stash, because I don't want to start something else and run out, and I don't remember what kind it was. And sometimes while you're working on this row or one of the ones close to it, the tail of the yarn will keep catching and try to weave itself in. And usually, if I am sure of what I'm making and it's not like a part of a sweater that has to be sewn together later, I'll just let it. So this is going to be a washcloth or a scarf. I'm just going to let that tail loop itself around and go right on along with those stitches. And when I get back down here, I'm just going to purl them over like it was one stitch. And whenever I'm ready to set it down, I can just cap it so the stitches don't slide off the end of the needle and start popping off and doing whatever they want to do, because projects can and will go crazy if given the chance. But for now, I think I'm just going to do some more work on it off screen and check back in later this week. And then I started using this row counter, A, to help me keep straight which needle was supposed to be in my right hand. And then B, I was going to count how many days I was working on the project with it, because I thought that would be cool. But then I completely forgot about doing that, so I'll try again next time. And I had to do a little bit of research to verify, but this is called garter stitch, when it just alternates from one row to the next row, back and forth. between knit stitches and purl stitches all the way across. And I think this is definitely going to be a scarf now. I got a little bit distracted while I was still trying to make up my mind on how wide it was. And yeah, it got long at me. Okay, so that is about 56 inches of scarf by my measuring tape, which is just about the entire measuring tape I've got. The only problem is I've not left enough yarn to cast off at all. I was just knitting and watching videos, and all of a sudden there was no more yarn ball. So, next time we'll be starting on how to fix this and trying to figure out what we're knitting next. Thank you for dreaming with me. Weaving Wands will return on Wednesdays at noon for new episodes. And if you want to check something else in the meantime, check out Behind the Scenes or the Bedside Garden. And remember to take care of yourself and keep your head in the clouds.